We've put in all of our different images. These are all buttons. When I roll over one, it totally works. We get this weird rollover effect. Let's go and fix all that. Just inside the code, this is what we have right now. We have all these different buttons. Each button is inside the input div, so they're all inside one div. When you change one button, it changes every other button is within that same div, so it affects all the other buttons. I can put them all into their own div, but then that makes other issues. On click, it's going to pickle. On click, this one goes to stupid. On click, this one goes to idiot, and so on. Let's go and look inside the code. We have a different function for each button. We have pickle, stupid, idiot, random, carpe diem, hurts, cry, die, lub, and news. When we click on the button, it plays the sound, it displays an image, changes the image. My image gets changed to whatever image we have here. We display it in a block. Then we play our sound. When our sound is over, it goes into something called sound over. Right now it's called, for some reason I have it called pickle over. I'm going to call it just sound over. Change it down here to sound over. We are in sound over. And it sets the image to none. Okay, so the image isn't being displayed, or it sets the display of the image to none. Let's run that, see what it does.
Wherever the universe blows you.
And then the sound's over and the image disappears. I want to put all of these things into a table. Inside the HTML, I'm going to put a table right here. And I'm going to give it an ID, and that's going to be my button table. And I'm going to close the table way down here. Tables can have rows, and you can have multiple rows. I'm going to tell it to have a row. That's my tr tag. I'm going to close the row. Let's say I only wanted 3 buttons in my first row. 1, 2, 3. I can close my row here. See what that looks like in the HTML. And I have to make a new tr here to start a new row, and then I can close my row after everything. I'm going to create a td. What does that stand for? Table data. This is what is inside my table. Put that down to here. Run that. You can see that I have 2 different rows inside my table. I need a combination of TRs and TDs. That makes this one cell and this one cell. Everything is still firing off. When I fire off this cell, it doesn't affect the one above it. But let's go and fix that. I'm going to put everything in its own cell. We're just going to have the one row. I'm just going to get rid of this second row. I have to put everything in its own cell. Each button in its own cell. We have the beginning, end of a cell, beginning of the next cell, end of a cell, beginning of the next cell, end of a cell, beginning of the next cell, cell, beginning of the next cell after each button. Everything is in its own cell. Save that. I've made a mistake with the TDs. Everything is now in its own table. The only problem is that the cells are collapsing. They're not keeping the right width. I can avoid that by telling the table to be a certain width and telling the cells to be a certain width. In the CSS, we have an ID, button table. In the CSS, hashtag button table width 2000 pixels. Let's try that. That sort of spread them out, but still each table is affecting the other one. Let's make the height button table TD. Let's make the width 70 pixels. So let's see how that works. 90 pixels then. Let's say the width is 100 and the height is 100. Let's see what that does. Okay, that's a little bit better, but still it's collapsing a little bit, which is affecting all the other cells, and I don't want that to happen. So let's try something else. Let's try and make the table layout fixed. That helps. Now it totally works. By changing one button, we're not changing all of the buttons. And there we go. That is how to put everything into a table. The next thing I want to look at is how to make the buttons fire off automatically. Let's say I wanted it to wait for a certain amount of time, like a random amount of time. To do that, I need a random number generator. I'm going to build one in my JavaScript very quickly. I'm going to make a function called random, or myRandom. I'm going to take 2 arguments, a and b. So if we're looking for a number between 5 and 10, like a would be 5 and b would be 10. I'm going to make a variable called rand. I'm going to make a variable called range first. And the range is going to be the b number, take away the a number. Then I'm going to make a variable called rand.